Remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would.
You want to know what I think? Well, you're listening to my show, so I will assume you do.
If you've seen V for Vendetta before, you would know that there's something about it that feels so convincing. It's not just entertaining or stylistic as we all know from the iconic mask, but it's persuasive in a quiet way, as if it's guiding you toward a conclusion instead of a story. Now this conclusion is simple. Ideas matter more than people. It sounds inspiring and even comforting for the intellect, but the longer that you sit with it, the more unsettling it becomes. The film has its plot set upon control, but in reality it's not just the obvious kind. It's not only about the pervasive surveillance and violence, but rather about how control shapes reality itself. The government controls what people see, hear, and for many, what they accept as the truth. It doesn't just enforce obedience, it manufactures belief. This sets the film in one coherent, powerful thought. If power comes from controlling ideas, then resistance becomes a battle of ideas too. Now this is where V enters the picture. We never know what he looks like beneath the mask, making it hard to humanize the character beyond the surface. There's no sense of identity, or even anything that makes him feel unstable. He's abstract, sort of like he reached his final form before the story even began to roll. It's not a flaw, and we know that it isn't because we sense that there is no uncertainty behind it. And if anything, we read it as something that's intentional. His character was never designed to be human. V is meant for the audience to reduce into something more particular and more precise than a person, a symbol. V isn't a person, he is an idea. The more that concept is enforced, the more that something is removed from him. Because when you stop being a person, you stop being held accountable. V would later say in the film that beneath the mask is an idea, and that in itself is treated as an evolution, as if V is becoming more powerful. His becoming of an idea, however, fails to elevate anyone. Instead, it separates. An idea does not hesitate or reconsider, nor does it face consequences. It's the people that embody these ideas that do. Now, all of these become impossible to ignore when you see what V does. He's extreme. V kills people with clear intention and planning, making him decide who it is that deserves to die. Now, the film would paint it as an act of justice and as something that is necessary. But never once was it questioned where the authority comes from. It was never prompted to ask why V's judgment should be trusted, and instead were only drawn to make it feel justified in the moment. So anyway, who gave him the right to decide that? So it's complicated, right? Because the more we think about it, V becomes a mirror of the system that he's so against. Like him, the government believes that it holds the authority to decide what is necessary, justifying the harm it causes as an act to maintain peace and order. This allows us to reduce everything on this single premise. Both sides are operating on belief, where both believe they are in the right and are reducing people into pieces of a bigger idea. The film wants us to side with V, but it never really tells you that his acts are no different. Both sides believe they're justified. So where's the difference? The government is suffocating and rigid while V is charismatic, who feels kind of like freedom personified. But no matter how theatrical V appears to be, freedom can still be a form of control, it just feels better to watch. Perhaps we see this better as we follow Evey because she's the only character who we see as human. She was initially afraid, cloaked with doubt, and lacking of an ideology. However, her life takes a turn the moment that V takes her. She gets imprisoned by V, manipulated, and broken down psychologically until she no longer fears for death. This is what we witness as a form of awakening, one where she becomes free from something that's internal. However, the process is completely forced. It's V who decided who she needs to become and has, without a doubt, imposed that change on her. So this doesn't really sit right because if you force someone to be free, are they actually free? Checks and balances have always been necessary to keep systems effectively in place, serving at the people's best interest. It's a common notion that power has its limits, that there's this line that can't be crossed. Yet truthfully, history paints a different story. Power, when it goes unchecked, expands and fails to restrain itself. That's one of the things that the film understands well, not the spectacle, but the underlying idea that authority doesn't naturally correct itself. Power doesn't stop on its own. So we must ponder, how come this way of thinking isn't applied to V? We're skeptical of systems that we no longer trust, but it's harder to question what we've accepted to be right. When we start giving these benefits of doubt, that is when the line gets crossed. The same skepticism should apply to everyone. As the film comes to a conclusion, tensions are absorbed into the symbol of the mask. The Guy Fawkes mask has become a unifying image that represents resistance and a shared purpose. As the crowd appears to wear it, the scene begins to feel powerful, even overwhelming, in its peak momentum. Everyone looks the same. Individuality disappears, yet a single repeated idea persists. This is framed as empowerment, as if the act of uniting is your final step toward freedom. But if everyone becomes the symbol, individuality disappears. In reality, this unity has its cost. When everyone aligns with the same symbol, narrative, and interpretation, the room for disagreement disappears, and complexity fades, leaving no space to question what you start to believe in. So, we cannot believe in this movie. We also can't allow it to echo or to support our beliefs. Real change has never looked so clean or directed. In reality, it's slow, inconsistent, and uncomfortable. There will always be people who disagree, who make mistakes, and those who have to negotiate as they rethink the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. It doesn't revolve around a single idea that should explain everything because it's made by completing those that never fit together in the first place. Real change is messy. As fictitious as V for Vendetta is, it's a film that stays with us. Not because it gives us answers, as it never did in the first place, but because it's so good at making a single perspective feel right, like it's the truth. It shows us something that's so complicated in a way that it feels complete, even though it isn't. And that is how it stays with us, in its merging of strengths and weaknesses. But despite the flaws, V is right about one thing. Ideas are bulletproof. Although that's not reassuring, because if we stop challenging ideas, that's the moment we stop correcting it altogether. And once that happens, ideas fail to make us think and instead turn into an asset for control. If an idea can't be challenged, it can't be corrected.